Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about how to fool everybody to believe that you are a superstar programmer. So let's get into it. Now this is a great question. The person who wrote this, I I saw this during my vacation, and my little box popped up and said, like, I was just basically trying to get back to some comments, and I saw this person posting that question, and by the time I had answered it, they had removed the comment. I changed it to something else. I don't know what to read into that, but anywho, I'm still going to answer it because I did answer it before they removed the question. So, you want to trick people into believing that you are a superstar programmer. So then I'm going to give you a disclaimer first and foremost. And the first disclaimer I'm going to give you is that it's not going to be that it's a bad idea, because there's quite a lot of people to do this. But you need to be able to walk the walk and not just talk the talk. Because I can promise you now that if you oversell, and this is something that I think is very important to know, self-promotion is one thing, to show confidence and to show people that you are good at what you do, or that giving other people a sensation that, yeah, this person is probably a pretty good fit for my company. They probably have the skills to do this. That's one thing. It's a very different thing to oversell. And the reason why it's a very different thing is because if you set expectations, that word that I love, expectations, if you set those too high, then you're going to create bias remorse in your boss when you start working. Because they are going to expect you to be able to produce at a certain level. If you hype yourself up to the skies, then you better hope and pray that you can deliver on a very high level, because they're going to expect that from you. And that's managing expectations. But let's get actually into the tips of the thing. So when it comes to proving that you are a superstar programmer, the first thing that we should focus on is, unless we're like actually going to say that, okay, we have the skills of a superstar programmer. If you have the skills and it's just basically you trying to sell the idea, a little bit of a different thing, but we're going to get to that as well. First things first, you need to create a online profile, like a LinkedIn profile, where you very clearly state that you have a preference in languages, and you need to basically have a CV that reflects that you are a superstar programmer. You can basically put anything that you have a working understanding of, and you should focus as much as possible on the mainstream tools like Docker, Kubernetes, etc., etc. The trendiest languages: Go, Node, Kotlin, Rust, etc., etc. All the things that, and then you can probably put some. If you don't have to learn these languages. It comes down to having enough of working knowledge to actually understand these languages. You just basically can learn the syntax if you want, and JavaScript and stuff like that. Then you should put a little bit more effort into something like, say, Java, C#, and C++. So if you're going to focus on something, C++ would be a very good bet, because C++ is usually associated with, you need, these other languages are more important for work purposes usually, but C++ is usually associated. It doesn't have to be C++, it could be Haskell as well. Any of these more, or F#, anything that is a little bit more academic, because the thing is, guys, people associate skill with academic prowess. If you are studying a technical field, or if you are good in a technical field, you can basically, people will just, it's like having glasses for some reason. It makes you seem smarter. I don't know why, but it does. I'm assuming because it's not as accessible. Anywho, so those are like the first things that you can do, and make sure that you have that on your CV, because that's the thing you're optimizing for, right? If you're going to fool everybody into believing that you are a superstar developer. And after that, you need to have basically a few personal projects. Ideally, what you want to do is to create something like they don't have to even work. They don't have to be big. They just have to be the sort of projects that indicate that you're a little bit different. You're working on something cool, like a compiler or an interpreter, or something with machine learning. That's also really cool and popular. Like anything that seems to be, as I said, we come back to this academic, something that is a little bit more technical, something that is not a REST API, something that is not a to-do app, something that is more in-depth, something that is more complicated than that. Maybe you want to create your own runtime, something like that, build your own little language, something like that. These are things that blow the they blow the socks off anybody who is non-technical, because this is like way above what they actually understand, right? Which brings us to another thing that is very useful. Taking some basic computer science courses, anything like that. Being able to just understand basic concepts, even if it's just the big O notation or some basic machine learning, whatever. Anything like that. If you can put that on your CV as well, that's also going to be a really good indicator, because that's also super cool, super high profile, associated with quite a lot of advanced concepts, even though like this, and this is the thing that you're basically exploiting. You're exploiting the fact that somebody with a limited understanding of this profession is going to assume that you're more skilled than that. You're just going to see the buzzword. That's what they're going to look at. It's like reading most people read only the top section of the newspaper. They don't actually read the article, they just read the actual headline. It's pretty much the same principle. And then apart from that, I highly suggest that you can go to any meetup, go there, do a basic talk about anything. So you can put that on your CV as well, to prove that you're a profile, you're a leader, you're a thought leader, you are an influencer. Influencer is the word they use, right? So you can, and it doesn't have to be on anything complicated. You can literally go. I mean, if you want a really hot tip, if you manage it, just go to one of the enterprise meetups for Java or C# or something like that, and basically go and do a 5-minute or 10-minute talk about anything in JavaScript land, like literally anything. You can basically go there and say, this is React, this is Vue, or this is Angular, this is Gatsby, or whatever. You can do anything, because most of the people who go to these meetups, they have absolute fuck all understanding of this. This is not in their realm, so they go there to actually meet people and get inspired by something that they don't touch on a daily basis. So that's some cheap wins for you if you want to get some meetups and like profile and stuff like that on your CV, which also helps your credibility to be like one of these superstar programmers, right? And lastly, you can go and do basically any pro bono work for any higher profile open source project. An easy thing to do is, like, as an example, you could go and fix spelling mistakes in a project that a few people know about. If you can get your name on the contributors list on something that is a little bit like a semi-famous open source project, but as I said, you can just sit there and basically do a correction of typos if you wanted to. If you can do that, that's something that people will notice as well, like that you're a contributor or something like that. It doesn't have to be anything meaningful at all. You can just basically create a pull request, and there you go. So what I want you to take away from this is that if you want to be perceived as a superstar programmer, number one, make sure that you don't oversell yourself, because it's going to come back and bite you in the ass. Because you might get hired, and this is the thing why you're putting all of this in your CV, because the things that I've just mentioned for you, these are the sort of things that is going to make every single recruiter on this planet wet their pants when they see you, for sure. Short of like you lacking the experience or not having enough academics or something like that on your CV, these are the sort of things that they all get excited about. All of them, almost exclusive. Like, I have so far never ever met a recruiter who doesn't fall for this. And the basics is very simple. As I said, you just need to, you have to prove things on your CV that indicate skill, right? Problem is, when you actually go there to work, they're going to test if you know this stuff. It doesn't matter if you have a CV that tells the recruiter that you're a gift from God, because you're still going to have to do the work. So remember that. Apart from that, to summarize, number one, make sure that you have cool, trendy tools on your CV. You don't have to be a master of them. You basically just have to know enough to have a working conversation, or like identify the different languages and so forth. And then you have to have an in-depth knowledge, or like something a little where you can carry a little bit of a stronger conversation regarding high-profile languages that are usually associated with skills such as Scala, F#, Haskell, C, C++, etc. Things that people usually, like more advanced languages that are usually associated with a bit of like in-depth knowledge, academic stuff like that. Computer science, anything that you can get where you have, like where people perceive you to be smart. Anything that can give you an indicator that, give other people an indicator that you have academic prowess. Machine learning is an example of that. You can take some basic courses and this will give you credibility as an expert in something, even if you just know, like you have taken the 101 course. Apart from that, having like some type of personal projects that are a little bit more advanced, like a compiler or a runtime or something like that, you can basically go and take a blog and go to a blog and just make a few, like read through what somebody else did and kind of follow along. And there you go. Now you have your own compiler, runtime, something that is more technical and more advanced, not a to-do app, not a REST API, etc., right? And then you have going to a meetup, doing a beginner's take on a meetup. I've personally seen a few juniors come into the meetups that I've gone to, basically done a 10-minute presentation, nervous as fuck, unsure as fuck, but you know, courage. It takes courage to go up there and stand and say a few words. They didn't make a presentation about anything mind-blowing. They don't have to, literally not, you know, if you didn't know that, not every single programmer on this planet sits on GitHub and Stack Overflow every single day of the week. They have lives, so there are still people out there who don't really know what the benefits are of React or Angular or Vue. Go and teach them. And then lastly, going and doing some basic sheep work for any semi-famous open source projects, because then you actually get to be on the contributors list and you can actually say that you've been contributing to some open source projects such as A, B, and C. These are things that well, will inflate your CV to the absolute skies and you will get noticed. I can promise you that. But remember, if you can't walk the walk and you just talk the talk, you're going to get fired. So be careful. Have a great day.